Okay. What? Okay, so apparently, so I thought I hit already started streaming when I hit start streaming on OBS, but I don't think I did. So I think now I'm streaming. Welcome everybody to my live stream. Sorry, I was just getting everything set up, and I haven't done a live. I'm just making sure it's on my story on Instagram. Let me put this down now. Where should I look? I think I should look on this screen because I can see the chat if anyone pops on. Hopefully everyone can hear me fine. Okay. I'm gonna calm myself down because I don't know if you have ever done a live stream before, but it feels very weird because, I mean, I'm used to filming videos, so it very much does feel like I'm just filming a video, but then I have this other thought process going on in the back of my mind that's like constantly reminding me that I am on live stream and that there are people watching me live right now, and that if I fuck up or anything, that I can't edit it, it's just live, and so that like inner perfectionist is just like freaking out. So I don't know when the last time I went live was, a while ago. So I need to like recalibrate into this because right now it feels like my heart is like gonna explode because it's like I'm excited, but I'm nervous. And I don't know if you've ever noticed, but excitement and nervousness honestly feels the same sometimes. So the way that I'm going to calm myself down, and you can join me, is I'm literally going to just close my eyes and just breathe and just feel what's going on in my body, just kind of do a check-in, and allow myself to just be as I am, not trying to change my feelings, not trying to make myself like forcefully calmer, but instead just witnessing what's happening, and as a result of witnessing it and letting myself be, the anxiety and the anxiousness just naturally begins to dissipate. So I'm just gonna take a few moments and just breathe. And if you're doing it with me, you can close your eyes, you can keep watching me, and breathe at your own rhythm. I literally feel like I'm buzzing. Like the surface of my skin is just... I had a lot of resistance coming on here today because I knew that as soon as I hit go live or I hit start streaming, I immediately like have this body reaction where my nervous system kind of just goes, what is happening? Are we safe? But the thing is, I am safe. I'm in my beautiful room. Welcome to my space. And it feels exciting to do live streams, and it feels exciting also to just film something and not have to edit it later on. That's honestly why I am really excited to be doing live streams. My plan is to do them quite regularly, preferably once a week, but we'll see how it goes because it is still quite activating to my nervous system. So I just have to make sure that I'm pacing myself properly and not forcing myself to do more than is necessary. And also, hi everyone in the comments. Faraz and Zani, I don't know how to say your name. Thank you for being here. So the way that this is going to work is, if you've watched any of my previous energy update videos, actually the last one that I did was a I don't know when it was, a few weeks ago. Time, as I say in like a lot of my content, time just feels really, really weird right now. And so I have no idea when the last update was, but it was sometime in January. And the way that this is going to work is one thing that I've started doing recently is doing Akashic Records readings on myself and on others. And I actually offer that one-on-one, like a private Akashic Records reading. So if you want to do that, there's a link in the bio or description to schedule. But something that I felt was cool last time I did an energy update, because when I watch other people's energy updates, most of them are just from the intuitive stream. So it's like me tapping into my higher self, my highest self, and kind of coming in that way, like into a 𝗕𝗔𝗬𝗦, and like speaking out what I am sensing, like kind of as my human self, as a 𝗕𝗔𝗬𝗦, based on a lot of my experiences, a lot of the information, and like what I've been seeing around me, coming through the like human lens. But I thought it would also be cool to also incorporate like an Akashic Records reading on the collective to see. Last time when I did it, I had no idea what the difference was going to be. But what ended up happening was that the intuitive stream of the intuitive reading was very like from a human-based perspective, like a very like from a 𝗕𝗔𝗬𝗦. And then when I tapped into the Akashic Records field and I did a reading on the collective to see what the energy was or what was coming through, it kind of felt like a more zoomed out perspective, like literally like on a planetary level. Like the information that came through was more focused on that, like a zoomed out perspective. I'm also just going to close the door because I feel one sec. I don't know if anyone else feels this, but I can like feel when the doors open, even if it's a crack, like I can sense a significant difference when the door is open versus when the room is like completely closed. So I had to just close that room because it's helping me settle a little bit. So yeah. Okay. Just gonna drink some water. Oh, I wanted to show you something fun before we get into it. Also, Luna might scratch at the door, want to come in, so I might do that as well. But, okay, so I have a really small bladder, and so I will more likely than not have to go pee in the middle of this. And so I, like, made this thing for OBS. So it's like anytime I have to go pee, I'll just, like, switch it to this screen. And it's, like, so... such a seamless transition, and so you'll know when I'm on my pee break, and then I'll come back. I don't know, I just love that so much. I knew OBS could do that, but I'd never played with OBS before, really, except for today, so I thought that was really fun. Yeah, okay. You know what? Also, for the comments, whoever comments, so while I'm doing the readings, I'm going to start with the intuitive reading and kind of just see what comes through that way, through that stream. And I'm not going to be looking at the comments or anything while I'm doing the reading. And then after the intuitive reading, I'll check in with the comments, see what's coming up, maybe take a pee break in between. And then I'll do the Akashic Records reading. And I will not be looking at the comments during that reading either. So I'll be looking at the comments between the intuitive reading and the Akashic Records reading. And I will be looking at the comments towards the end as well. So yeah, if you're writing something and I'm not paying attention, I'm not ignoring you. I just cannot, I need it to be like while I'm in the reading frame of mind, I need to be in a kind of like focused state. Yeah. So just ate pizza for lunch. And that's so gross. Why am I saying this? I was gonna say I had pizza for lunch, so I'm burping and I'm like, oh yeah, I had pizza for lunch, you know? That's so gross. That's another thing about live streams that I really enjoy, is that more of myself can come through because there's less of a chance to filter. Because like when you're filming a video, there's like, you have a huge chance to just filter how you're being. If you say something and you don't want to say it like that, you can just stop recording and restart the recording. You can edit things out in editing afterwards. But with the live stream, it's really like, I'm here right now and this is how I am. And it's more difficult to hide. And it's more difficult to not be authentic when you're live streaming, which is also a reason why I do want to be doing these more, because it's like, as much as I speak about authenticity and how much of a value that is, it is still so difficult sometimes to be that fully authentic version of me that I strive to be, you know? So, okay. Whew, okay, so again, we're going into the intuitive reading now. And this reading is going to be for basically, it's like I'm going to be talking about the energy that I'm feeling for this upcoming month. It's a really big energy, and I'll see what comes through. I haven't planned anything. I haven't written any notes. I'm just trusting the moment and trusting that when I reach out to it's like when I tap in, like the information pours through. That's usually how it happens when I am filming and recording on my own, like not live. But live, it's like, I hope it still feels that fluid. Yeah, I'm gonna start off by just closing my eyes, breathing, and I will start sharing as soon as things start coming up. And again, I will not be looking at your comments until after. Hopefully the noise of the fan isn't too loud. I think it should be okay though, because I have an external mic. Okay. So the first thing that's coming up for like February energies is just this like big word, like freedom. So what I'm perceiving is that we're experiencing like stepping into greater levels of freedom within the collective. Like, for example, if you see what's going on in Canada right now with the Freedom Convoy, like the theme of freedom and freeing yourself from authoritarian forces, or just strict structures or rigid rules, or, you know, like all of that, like the freedom from limitation. That's a huge theme for February, and I think it's going to be continuing throughout the month. I think the Canada protests are really just the beginning of what we might see over like this upcoming month, but also like the next few months in all over the world. Just people being, it's almost like we're so many people are just like to the breaking point of what. Okay, so I think so hold on. There's a collective thing. I want to say this first. So there's a whole like collective thing going on where we're seeing this theme of freedom coming up, but also in our like personal lives. Just where in our personal lives have there been authoritarian structures that have been keeping us feeling limited? And this may be literally like an authoritarian person or people in your life that have rules that they've placed on you, and there's this like tension and energy of like breaking free of that. But also just authoritarian structures that we've placed on ourselves, or just limitations really that we have placed on ourselves, whether they feel authoritarian or not. Just like anything that has been limiting us from becoming the version of ourselves that we want to be, that we dream of, like the version of our life that we dream of living. Like, what are the limitations that are holding us back? And now it's like February really feels like this almost intense push, like breaking free of it. And I just had this image of like literally like a birthing canal. So it's like it can be quite uncomfortable, you know, like so think of like a human birth. It could be quite uncomfortable for the mom and probably to the child as well when they are like exiting the birth canal. But that discomfort is necessary for the ultimate birth, and we're kind of going through like rebirthing periods and multiple levels of ourselves. So in our personal lives, an example that I can give you from my own experience right now, what I'm going through is like something that I've really been working towards is like financial stability and just feeling safe and secure, like in the financial realm. I've spoken about this a lot on my channel because this has definitely been a big theme for my life. Where should I look? I'm kind of looking just at my desktop right now, and that doesn't seem so fun. I'll just look at OBS. Okay. So I've spoken about financial stability a lot over on my channel because that's like my main focus right now, is really bringing myself into a space bringing myself into a version of my reality where I am doing what I want to do, and I am I'm financially stable and like can financially support myself through it. And a big theme, like moving into February, is noticing all of my own behaviors and all of my own patterning that has stopped me from that. So in January and like end of December-ish, it was just kind of like it was like a realization mode. Like January and end of December, it was like realizing where in my life these limitations were existing that I was actually was in control of. And February feels like, okay, we've thought about it a lot. We've analyzed it a lot. We've looked at this experience from all different levels. We're seeing where the limitations are coming from. I am also looking at, I understand where the source of these limitations are coming from. For me, there's a lot of like ancestral patterning that I have been cycling without consciously knowing it. So in terms of like how I spend money and how I relate to money, how I interact with money, how my saving habits, just my overall philosophy on money. Like there's been a lot of discovery of wounded kind of perceptions of resources or money resources that have been, it's like when I trace it back, it's kind of been sourced from what I can tell, like my mother's line and like how I saw my mother, but both of my parents really, but how I saw my mother acting towards money, how I saw my dad acting towards money, and they were both kind of in their own extremes from my perspective. And so now it's like January and December, like I was saying, was really about like uncovering that. It's almost like digging down and digging deep and being like, oh, this is the cause of, I'm also getting this image of like, it's like, you know, it's like if something was bothering you and you can't see it, but you can feel it and you don't know where it is. And then you kind of like do a digging and you're like, you kind of pull it out and you're like, oh, this is the culprit. So that was like my January. It was just, where am I limiting myself? Like in the areas of my life that I can control, where am I being limited? And there was a lot of self-judgment that came up, a lot of like I don't know, I would say like even embarrassment and a little bit of like, oh my God, how did I not realize that I was doing that? Like, that's so dumb. I should have known better, right? There was a lot of that. So on the tail end of that, it's like moving into February, it feels very much like, okay, we've thought about it a lot, we've analyzed it, now it's time to actually like do it. Like, let's change these patterns. Let's like actually get our heads in the game and like actively start moving these behaviors around. And so what that looks like is, in my life, it's been about putting in new structures in my day-to-day life that help me accomplish what I want to do. So it's literally like my daily structures are changing, and this might also be like riding off of the energy of just like the New Year's resolution things, where at the beginning of every year we kind of seem to do this thing where we look at how we've been living, like, because it's in our day-to-day lives where the massive change begins. So when you can like focus in on the day-to-day structure of your life and change that around into a what's more serving, that is ultimately what's going to help us experience a greater change that we wish to see. So going back to the finances thing, I just noticed like one of my biggest things with finances, I have just been really afraid to do things, or really afraid of commitment and responsibility. And this is also something that I noticed first probably around May or April of last year, just like early summer. Like I just noticed that I had this aversion to responsibility and commitment. And in January, it was like really highlighted. It was like, okay, I need to just start doing more of the things that I want to do. Like it wasn't ever a problem of that I didn't know what to do or how to do it or that, but it was just, I was so afraid of not having energy that I would just stop myself from trying to do things. Like I was so afraid of burnout that I just wouldn't try, and so January has been like, okay, you can't be scared of burnout anymore. Like if you want to have, like you have all these, this is me speaking to me, it's like if you have all of these huge visions of the future and what you want to contribute to the world, and these like just really amazing structures that you want to bring in, these goals, these aspirations, like they're big. Like that's one thing as well. It's like what I want to do in this world, the energy of it is so big, it's so expansive, it's like global thought leader type of energy. And in January, it's like, okay, if you really want to do this, you have to begin acting, or begin learning how to act like that version of you that already has that, or who is already doing those things. And so projecting out into like a potential future version of me where I am doing all the things that I want to do. So like speaking at different events, or speaking or doing interviews with people. I'm just being on a more public, right? Like a bigger stage. Let's just say hypothetical stage. If I want to be doing that, I have to be okay with having things in my schedule and knowing that I can, and trusting myself to be able to show up for those things that I've scheduled when I said that I'm going to schedule them. And that has been such a, it's been so, it's brought up a lot, right? Because if there wasn't any resistance to doing those things and showing up and creating all these things in my calendar and then showing up to them, if there wasn't resistance or distortion or trauma around that, I would not be feeling like I would just be able to easily do it. So January and February now especially is like things are just really ramping up, and I'm just being so inspired to just add more onto my plate of things that I want to do. So I have now a weekly schedule of things, and I'm still really nervous that I won't be able to like hold up to it, or that I'll disappoint myself. But like the energy of February is very much like, okay, we're gonna have to try. Like it feels like there's no other choice but just to try at this point, because otherwise we're just sitting in stagnancy. And this is what I was saying as well. It's like feels like we're all at a point where we're just so fed up with the stagnancy that we've experienced over the past like 2 years or so, and we're just ready to like get it moving. Like we're ready to just do something different, like anything. Like I'm fucking tired. I just want to change. And another thing that I've been doing is I just feel like personal experiences really help put into context what I'm speaking about. So it's like this energy of like being so fed up and just looking at, okay, what have I not tried yet? And then looking at what you haven't tried yet and moving forward towards it. And likely when you look at what you haven't tried yet, there's probably, wait, it's been 27 minutes? That's freaking crazy. Okay. But But it's like likely what you're looking at or what you haven't tried yet is something that you don't want to do for whatever reason. So another thing for me, it's like if I'm looking at my financial stability issue, one of the things that I haven't done yet is I've been so scared of getting like a part-time job to help stabilize like a monthly income so that I don't feel so like when I am selling my offerings for my coaching and for all of that stuff, I don't feel that sense of like desperation with it, because I personally hate the feeling of like when someone's trying to sell me something and you can like sense that energy of desperation. So for me, it's also like confronting, like February is also like confronting head on all the stuff that we've been avoiding that has been preventing us from moving forward. And a visual coming through, this has come through a lot over the past month. But it's like we have all, okay, so say that I'm at point A and I want to get to point B. Like point B is the destination that I'm aiming towards. And there's like infinite number of there's just like a ton of paths that get you from point A to point B. But there's some paths that are obviously more efficient, right? And the like best case scenario, you walk down the path that is most efficient because that will get you quickest to where you want to be. But what we do is that we want to get to point B, but there's limitations that we place on ourselves. So we're like, okay, for me, I want to have financial stability, but I'm not willing to get a part-time job. You know, it's like, I want financial stability, but I'm not willing to do this. So we set up these dams or blocks on these paths that are most efficient, just because we're afraid of them or they trigger us in some way. Maybe they highlight past trauma. With me, it's like getting a part-time job had so much, like all the other jobs that I've had in the past before before in the pandemic, everything, they've been so like soul crushing and draining. And when I had them, realistically, like I didn't really know what I wanted to be doing in life, so they just weren't properly aligned with who I am, and I didn't have the awareness to sign up for jobs that were actually reflecting what I wanted to do in the world. So they were very soul crushing and draining. And so now it's like end of last year, life had been kind of showing me like, okay, we need to, before we jumpstart you out into where you really want to be, where you're fully sustainable in your business and you're fully like, you're like signing, there's just so many clients and you're not worried, there's no anxiety or worry about, okay, basically before we get you to like complete financial stability within your business, you need to confront this trigger first, basically. And that trigger was getting a part-time job. And that was one of the dams that I'd created in my life. That was actually slowing down my whole progress because it's the most efficient path to get me to where I want to go, but I wasn't willing to confront it. And so it was really holding me back. And so February is like in January, we kind of looked at we were kind of made aware of where these dams are. And maybe we started like working on removing some of the dams, but February is like, okay, we're freaking lifting this shit. Like we're done with this. It's gone. And it's just a very intense like forward movement. I'm also seeing like, it's like when you're revving, like January was kind of like revving your car, and it's like, but then February is like, okay, go. And it's just it's like this intense like forward momentum that is being experienced. And we could like, I'm not an astrologer, but I do follow astrology. And we just came out of like, we've been in Venus retrograde, and there's been Mercury retrograde all throughout January. And as we enter February, both of those planets go direct. And so that's also backing up. That's kind of like I'm speaking intuitively based on what I see, but if you are into astrology, there's also like that's kind of backing up what I'm saying as well. It's like there's been something that's been slowing us down, and now it's like, okay, full steam ahead. And then on a collective, we're seeing it as well, right? Like what I was saying at the beginning with the Freedom Convoy, and it's the same energy. It's like, I'm freaking tired of this bullshit, whether it's in our personal lives or in the collective. Like, I'm tired of these limitations that are holding me back from where I want to be, and I'm ready to do something about it. Like, I'm ready to take the responsibility now and just do what I can. Like I've noticed that, I mean, maybe in the past few months, past year, we've kind of been sitting in some sort of victimhood. Like, oh, there's still all these limitations. But now we're beginning to see where we do actually have the power to do something. Like we're basically seeing better. The fog is clearing more around what we do and do not have control over. So we can see that we're all kind of noticing that we have more control over our situations than we previously thought. And so there's just this like momentum and this push and this intensity and this passion, and also just like it's like I'm tired. I'm sick and tired. I'm fucking ready to go, you know? Yeah, so anything else coming up for intuitive reading? Let's see. Oh, 𝗦𝗧𝗧. 𝗦𝗧𝗧. That has been something as well. Just a lot, because everyone is all of a sudden, it's like we've all been like kind of been holding back, and now everyone's going forward all at once. Very noisy, a lot going on, a lot going on all at once. And something to be mindful about is, what information are you consuming, and do you need to be consuming as much information as you are? So if there is a lot going on, are there avenues of information streams that you can kind of plug or just close down for a little while to focus on yourself? Like not letting what other people are doing or what the collective is doing affect your own game, like your own individual game, because your individual life is what is most important. And it's like all of our individual lives add up with each other and create the collective. And so that's a big thing too. Like, as much as you can, taking your power back and your energy back from external events and bringing it back to yourself and what you can do in your own life. So if there are a lot of global events happening, which in February it does feel like there's going to, it's like, yeah, like already it's quite loud on the news scene. And I think it's just going to, from what I sense, it's going to ramp up a little as well, moving into March. And so what are the strategies that we can use to keep our own internal space as quiet as possible? So for me, I made a post about this on Instagram the other day. Airplane mode. Airplane mode is huge, because airplane mode, I turn it on at night, and then I don't turn it back, I turn it on at night, and then I don't turn it back off until the following day, like midday, because I want to be conscious when I'm consuming news or consuming global events, and I want to be in a state where I'm aware of how that is affecting me. So I'm not just unconsciously scrolling and letting all of these external things influence me and my energy and my motivation and like my feelings and everything. Like, yes, those things, if I look in, there's a lot of things that are happening right now that are, whenever I tune into them, they make me feel, they just, what am I trying to say? They like hype me up in different ways, negative or positive. Like they just do something, you know, like they affect me in an intense way. So when I do get affected, it's not that I'm going to cut myself off completely from knowing what's going on in the world, but it's going to be that I'm going to do my morning, like for example, I don't turn off airplane mode again until I'm in the morning, like in midday, after I've done my practices for the day. So the idea behind that is I want to get myself to a centered place where I know still like what my path is amidst everything that's going on. What is my path? Like, what am I focused on today? What do I want to get done today that is going to help me as an individual? And when I've checked in with that, then I'll let myself see what other people are doing, what's going on in the world, etc. Because it'll be easier to come back to my path. In the past, like for example, when the pandemic started, it was really, really difficult for me to stay in my own lane while there were all these external things happening. I would just get so like lost and pulled, and because I didn't have my center, I had not developed it, and now I have. And so what's important is maintaining that center. So yes, might get noisy. You always have silence and stillness that you can access within. if you want assistance with that, I do have a community space and a group. We do this in the Alchemy of Liberation. We'll meet once a week, and that can be very helpful, having like a group space where everyone's on the same, like got the same intention of wanting to recenter themselves within their own essence. So if you are looking for assistance and there's no structures in your life existing right now that help you practice getting back into center, the Alchemy of Liberation may be very assistive to you. And link's going to be in the bio if you want in on that. But yeah, we meet every week. We do a meditation. Then we have a group call, just like kind of group processing as a group. And then we also have like a group chat and a Facebook group. So as things come up throughout the week, we have a space to express and process with one another and be witnessed in that. So it's almost like we're each energetically holding one another. And those kinds of communities, whether you resonate with Alchemy of Liberation or you just have your own group somewhere, those community spaces, those group spaces where you feel like energetically held by people, there is so much value in that, for real. There is so, if you've never had that community space, like you would be doing yourself such a service by finding one that resonates with you and tuning into them regularly. Because what that does is it gives you a place to go when you're kind of in that lost zone where you're like getting pulled in all different directions by external events, external people, things that you don't resonate with, and you're kind of like floating around, like not really knowing anything. When you find a group that you resonate with that reflects a certain aspect of you that you want to amplify in your reality, that space then becomes like a tool that you use. Like anytime you're feeling lost or scattered or confused or whatever, you have this one space where you can just, you know that whenever you go in there, whether you're going in there with a weekly live call or with a group chat or groups or just a Facebook group or whatever, you know that whenever you go there, it is going to bring you back to center. So that's a big recommendation for February. Find a group like that. Find some sort of supportive community where you can connect to your own essence, your own authentic frequency. I also have a meditation on this on my channel for free. I think it's called something like Connect to Your Native Frequency. But the idea is when it gets noisy out in the world or out in our external reality, it gets really easy to lose sight of who we are, lose sight of our center. And so the more that we practice feeling ourselves, the more that we practice like learning what we feel like as individuals, that's when we connect to our purpose. We understand better what we're here to do on the planet. Life just becomes more clear, like we find more clarity. And so when the world does get noisy, it's so important to know how to do that, how to bring yourself back to center so that you don't get all lost and confused. Yeah. So that is it for the intuitive thing for February. I'm just going to drink some water and then I'm going to read any comments if they came up. Okay. Faraz said, February feels self-reliance, shattering limiting beliefs and flowing in our relationships without the need for controlling one another. That's how it feels for me. That's exactly it. That's the fucking vibe. Self-reliance, yes. And yes, shattering everything that you said, it's literally, I just came back. I'm like, hey, that is very on point with how I just feel it as well. Yeah, and not needing to control others, right? Like noticing where we do have control within ourselves and what in our, like, yeah, very self-reliance, sovereignty. Sovereignty is a big theme. And doing what we can in our own world to bring forth greater felt sense of sovereignty. Not like kind of exiting the victimizer, exiting the victimhood game. You know, like where, oh my gosh, like I'm so victimized, I'm such a victim. Like, yes, everyone has had situations or experiences in their life where they could label themselves as victims. There's a lot of injustice that has occurred on this planet. But by labeling ourselves as victims and others as victimizers, we're just kind of stuck in this loop where when we're in that loop, it's hard to see the solutions. So that was well said for us. And then 𝗬𝗧𝗧 said, "Sup, everyone." What's up? Okay. So I am gonna use my pee break thing now. This is so much fun. I'm having fun. Okay, I'm gonna use my pee break little thing, and I'll come back in a sec. BRB. I will be back probably before 5 minutes. And then we're gonna do the Akashic Records reading and see what comes through there. And yeah. Okay, I'm back. I pee really quickly as well. Okay. So next we are going to do a Akashic Records reading on the collective, and I have started getting okay, sorry, let's just calm down for a sec. I'm so hyped. I'm honestly really hyped because as you noticed at the beginning, I was a little bit nervous about doing a live stream, and I'm just really happy with how it's going, and I'm really happy about how it feels now. I'm like, okay, I can do it, yay. Again, another February theme, right? Like me setting up these live streams and showing up and being like, what can I do? Okay, so another thing, right? Like in December, I deleted like most of my YouTube videos, and so I've been seeing a lot of negative engagement, a lot of people leaving my community, which is obviously expected, but something that I've been wanting to do is like, okay, how do I bring people in? Like, how do I bring new people in that resonate with what I'm doing now, what I'm focusing on now? How do I do that? And one of the ideas was, okay, let's do live streams. Because I personally, I don't know, it just felt like something to try and to see how that felt and how that was received by the people in my community. And it was really scary to do a live stream, but it's like that self-reliance vibe. Like, no, you know what? I'm going to face this trigger head on, and I am going to confront whatever I'm fearing here, because it's an illusion. Like, there's no actual danger here. Like, what? The most that will happen is that I'll get a negative comment. Like, who cares? Honestly, like, there's no actual danger. And so knowing that and working with the body, because I often sense as well, like, sometimes my mind is fully on board. My mind is like, yeah, nothing to fear. I'm not really scared. There's no fear thoughts coming up, but it's my body and my nervous system that need to be trained in a way to actually have a felt sense of that safety. And that's what you were witnessing as well at the beginning of this live stream, just me sitting here, feeling it out, and honestly, like, every time I do a live stream, it's going to be training my nervous system to get used to live streams and get better at them and more comfortable with them. So, yeah. Okay. Any other comments or anything before I do the zoning out before I do the Akashic Records? Okay, no. I'm drinking some water. And if you watched my previous live stream video, you would know about this. So there's something when you do an Akashic Records reading, or when you get an Akashic Records reading from someone else, there's something called a pathway prayer. And it's essentially just a prayer that we use to open up the records to kind of get ourselves into that frame of mind, frame of mind where we're like, okay, now we're accessing this field of consciousness. And me personally, I don't think that doing a pathway prayer is 100% necessary. Like, I think that I have had experience myself. Like, I don't need the prayer to tap into that the information stream of the Akashic Records. By the way, if you don't know what the Akashic Records are, I don't feel like explaining it right now, so you can just do a Google search or something and see what people have written about it. Yeah, but for me, it's like when I first learned about the Akashic Records, I was very like doubtful and like skeptical, but it was about like experiencing them on my own and having a reading done on myself, and then practicing tapping into it myself as well. By the way, I'm planning to host a workshop teaching you how to tap into your own records, because anyone can do this. It's just about knowing how to do it and practicing. I'm going to be hosting that at some point over the next month or two. But yeah, going back to the pathway prayer, I don't think that it's 100% necessary, but I think that it is useful because it helps get you in like the frame of mind. It sets the tone for yourself and also for the people. Well, it sets the tone, it sets the intentions of what you're doing. And it also, like, for the people who are listening, if you're doing a reading for someone else or something, it also helps them kind of, I feel like it just helps our bodies relax, and everything's just about the body at this point. Like ascension. Wow, that's just coming through. But like, this is like a side note, but a lot of times in spiritual development, many people perceive it as like going somewhere else or going out of body. But really, ascension is about coming more and more deeply into your body as much as you can, like being so fully calibrated with your body that you are like moving in, calibrating your body all the way down with the greater cosmos, with the greater structure of reality. So I just go on tangents. What I was saying about the pathway prayer, it does help me get into like the frame of mind that just relaxes me. So all that being said, we're going to do the opening prayer. Yeah. And I just caught someone's message. Dua Hamid. Sorry, I'm just like burping, so it's not even a burp. It's just one of those things where you just kind of inhale. Weird. Keeps happening to me. So Dua Hamid. And by the way, my youngest sister's name is Dua as well. And Dua said, "Oh, your video about leaving your parents helped me so much. Wanted to say thanks for that." You're welcome. Yeah. There's so many of us, and yeah. Thank you for that feedback. Okay. So, now the Akashic Records reading. It's not that serious. One of my goals as well, like coming more into like my mystical embodiment of self, or just like being more of a spiritual teacher, or more actively a spiritual teacher, is taking some of the seriousness out of spirituality. I think there's been, I mean, for good reason as well, but also I think that where we are right now on the planet with the energetic climate and everything, I think it's safe to reclaim that like childlike wonder and innocence with even the realms of spirituality. So all of these rules and all of these like, you have to do it like this or something bad is gonna happen. I think we can let go of a lot of that now, and I think that is one of my deliverables. That's a weird word to use. I think that's one of like the things that I bring forth in my embodiment as a spiritual teacher, is like making it fun again, like making it something not so serious and not so intense, and just like, we're doing an Akashic Records reading, but it's not so serious. Like, You don't have to fast like 24 hours before you do like have the reading done or anything. That serves in certain contexts with certain people, depending on the energy that they're bringing forth to the space. Like, okay, for those of you that don't know what I'm talking about, to give you some more context, sometimes when you get Akashic Records readings from practitioners, they'll have like a list of things that you need to do before you get the reading. So they'll be like, make sure you fast for like 24 hours or something before the reading, or they'll have like a list of things that you have to do. And I think that is warranted for some people. Like, for example, if someone's bringing forth energies that are, it can help to be in a fasted state, because you can kind of process through those energies in a more efficient way. But I think a lot of people have lost sight of what the intention of those rules were in the first place. It's like people just feel like you have to do that now. But all I want to say is that it's up to you as an individual practitioner. You don't have to do anything. You don't have to get someone to fast before the reading. You don't have, like, you basically tune into your own guidance stream and you say, I want to do Akashic Records readings for other people. Is there any preparation that I should guide them towards? Yes or no? And see what comes through for you. For me, I don't have any like strict guidance or anything that comes through when I'm doing individual readings, but sometimes, like, yeah, it will help when you do readings with me to have water with you. But it's not 100% necessary. Okay. We're gonna breathe again. I just get so excited. It's not a bad thing, but I get so excited and then I start talking really fast and then I start tripping up over my words. And so we do acknowledge the forces of light, asking for guidance, direction, and courage to know the truth, as it is revealed for our highest good and the highest good of all. Please guide me to know the collective in the light of the Akashic Records, to see the human collective through the eyes of the Lords of the Records, and enable me to share the wisdom and compassion that the masters, teachers, and loved ones of the human collective have for us. Feels like it's just taking a little longer than usual to connect. I'm just gonna stay quiet. Until I feel ready. it'll help if I sit differently. It's going to repeat the prayer again. And so we do acknowledge the forces of light, asking for guidance, direction, and courage to know the truth, as it is revealed for our highest good and the highest good of all. Please guide me to know the human collective in the light of the Akashic records, to see the human collective through the eyes of the Lords of the records, and enable me to share the wisdom and compassion that the masters, teachers, and loved ones of the human collective have for us. The records are now open. So the first visuals that came up immediately, and I was almost about to not talk about them, but they're just persistent. It's an image of just a visual or a scene of a frog leapfrogging across lily pads. There's a lot of nerves in my body right now, so the info stream is coming through slower than usual. Also, I've never tapped into the records while on a live stream, so we're just going to be patient with it and allow the experience to be whatever it needs to be today. Okay, so the scene is expanding a little. So it's like a frog jumping across lily pads. And there's some lily pads that appear to be kind of like, they're kind of brown and black, and I would just say they're like kind of dead or something, I don't know. And there's some very fresh lily pads that are also on this pond. And I'm seeing like a wheel or like a time clock. So it's like, I see this time clock a lot when I'm doing readings. It's like, it kind of just signifies like in the past, or like going back in time, or like before. So before, the frog would hop on these lily pads trying to get to its destination, and it would hop on the black ones or the dead lily pads, and it would sink. Because it didn't know, it couldn't perceive color or something. And so it wouldn't be able to see which lily pads were healthy, or which ones it should jump on, and which ones were dead, and which ones, if it jumped on them, they would sink. It wasn't able to perceive that. So it would, its progress getting to its destination was really, really slowed, because it couldn't see what the healthy pads were and which ones were unhealthy, and so it couldn't maneuver in an efficient way. It was really like about, it's showing me like the senses like of this frog, they just couldn't. Also, this frog is, if you haven't figured it out by now, the frog is signifying just humanity. So humanity had certain senses limited, so they just could not perceive what lily pads were good for them and what wasn't. And now it's like the clock is going back forward, and now it's like, okay, that was before. We couldn't perceive what was not good for us, what was dead for us, and so we would take these paths or jump on these lily pads that would cause us to sink, or cause us to make a mistake. That's because we had part of our vision was not accessible. And so now it's in the after, and the frog can see in full color. And so it's expertly, was a word coming through, expertly maneuvering. And it's skipping over the dead lily pads now. So it can see better now what is good for it and what it's not. It's also like the highlighting that the dead lily pads or the harmful lily pads, the harmful paths still exist, but humanity, or each human or each frog in this context, you can see which ones are bad and which ones are good. It's not that the bad ones are just completely gone now or completely dissolved. Now I'm seeing the clock again, like more forward in time. Eventually there will be no dead lily pads. But right now we still have those dead lily pads, but to jump on, we can still go on those paths, but it's easier for us to, actually it's not even easier, it just is possible now to distinguish it. Before we literally, it's almost like we were like partly blind. We couldn't see the color, we couldn't see the state, and now we can. And so we're hopping along in a more efficient manner than ever before. I'm also seeing now it's switched to a different scene. Yeah, my readings are very, very visual. That's just how the information likes to come through for me. So the next scene that's coming through is, it's like a meadow or a field. It's like a very summery vibe. And it seems like there's, like through the clouds, this rainbow appears, but the rainbow is like stretching down onto the ground level of the meadow. So it's almost like it's material, it's coming from the sky, and it's stretching down, touching the earth, and materializing into like a literally like a rainbow bridge. Like that's what is coming through. And it's not rainbow. I know a lot of people use rainbow bridge to describe when people die on the physical plane, but they're just saying this is not the same. This is not this rainbow bridge doesn't it's not related to like physical death. It's just a rainbow bridge, though, like as the visual of a rainbow bridge and the feelings that visual invokes, that's what they're trying to get at right now by sending through these images. And I'm seeing people in the field. It's like a very summery scene. It's like people are picnicking, people are I don't know, just it's like a picnic scene. It's like a wide open field, and then there's this rainbow stretching down from the sky, and it's just kind of like silently like comes in, and it's there now. It's like established, it's materialized, it's there, and people are not noticing, like the people around this rainbow bridge, they're not noticing it, right away. It's there, but they're not yet noticing it. And slowly, people start to, like, one at a time, begin to notice this bridge that has just materialized. It's honestly like, before, the people who are around it, they were so busy with what they were doing that they couldn't see it. But slowly, like, with time, they begin to, like, turn their heads and notice it. And some people look scared of it, and some people look very, like, adventurous, and they're like, oh, let's check this out. But there's some people, like, holding back, like, and now it's like all the people who are picnicking or whatever, they're kind of surrounding this, like, bridge that has formed, and some people are, like, scared, and so they're staying back. And there's a handful of people that are like, oh, let's check this out, what's this about? There's, like, an eagerness and an excitement, because it's a rainbow, but it doesn't look threatening. But the people who are scared of it are really just, it's just something new, and it's something different, and they're just inherently afraid of something new and different. And so they're hanging back and kind of just witnessing the people who are eager to check it out. Just, they're watching those people. It's like watching from afar. So the people who are, like, adventurous are kind of, like, starting to walk on this bridge and climb up. And I'm being cut off right now from seeing what's at the other end of the bridge. It's like, if I try to, like, move my awareness from my, like, default perception where I'm just, like, viewing the whole scene, and if I try to go up, walk up the bridge myself, like, with my own perception, and go into it, I just see the words, not time yet. So we're not going to be able to access that information today of where this bridge of rainbows. It sounds very promising, it feels very promising and exciting, but I can't, it's not time yet to know, to access information about it. But but it's like, go back, focus on what's happening. So essentially, there's a group of people that are hanging back, and then there's a group of people, there's less people on the bridge exploring the bridge than there are people who are scared and holding back. And so the people who are exploring the bridge, it's like I'm seeing them touching it, and it's like their hands are it's like, that's interesting. So they touch the bridge, for example. That's one of the things that are happening. They touch the bridge, and their own bodies start getting sparkly, like their arm, and they're like, it's like almost like a childlike wonder. It's like, oh my god, what? Oh, that's an interesting thing as well. So, excuse me. So the people who are on the bridge, they seem very, like, childlike in demeanor. It's like this, it's like, as you're away from the bridge, you're in your adult form, and then as these adults move closer to the bridge, they seem to be appearing more and more as their childlike forms. That's cool. And so they're like these childlike forms. Maybe that's how you get closer to the bridge, is inner child work. This is something that a lot of us who are doing a lot of internal work right now are just tapped into the ascension knowledge. We know that it is through, like, that childlike innocence and that childlike approach to reality that kind of gets us closer to where we want to be. And so in this scene as well, it's the rainbow bridge is coming down. The people who, everyone who is exploring the bridge in this scene right now, they have a childlike appearance to them. And they're just exploring, they're experimenting, they're playing. It's like playing with it, and they're just seeing what happens because it's something new. It's something that they've never seen before. It just kind of landed. And yeah, one of the scenes, as I was saying before, it's like one of them is like touching the bridge, like the surface of it, and as they touch it, it just begins to like sparkle and glow their entire bodies. And when they first touch it, they get close to it, and then when they remove it, the glow disappears, or the sparkle disappears. But as they spend more time touching the bridge, just touching it, not even climbing it, not anything, just being near it, the more that glow and that sparkliness sustains in their skin and in their bodies. And now I'm seeing people like climb up the bridge and get to that point where it's like it goes into the clouds, where I got the message it's not time yet to access what's beyond that. So, but I'm seeing like people like climbing the bridge and going to the cloud thing, going beyond it, disappearing from my perception. I can't see them anymore. They're not in the scene anymore. But then they're coming back down with like this grin on their face, like, oh my God, like they're just so, they're so excited. And they're, yeah, they're just like this grin on their face of the people who went past it and came back. They're like, oh. But they're coming back, and they're still, now the focus is directing to the people who are afraid of the bridge. And they're just paralyzed in fear. And again, it's not that the bridge itself looks terrifying or anything. It looks beautiful. It looks very inviting, but it's just because it's something new. And these people are not used to it. Again, it's like what we were talking about earlier in this live stream. It's like it's like nervous system. It's like the nervous system is being way too activated right now, and it's leading them into a freeze response. And so all of these people in this scene are just paralyzed, just like, what the fuck? What is that? I'm too scared to go near it. But they are perceiving and watching those of the people who have been able to overcome the freeze response, or they're not afraid of the bridge, and the frozen people are observing the people playing on the bridge. And slowly, it's like, given enough time, by even just witnessing the people playing on the bridge, it begins to unfreeze the people who are stuck. Cool. And so for the people who are on the bridge, and the message is like, if you're watching this live stream, you're likely close to the bridge right now. And if you don't know what that means or anything, if you don't have context, it's really just a new way of perceiving reality, a new way of perceiving the world, but really like being an example of this new world, of this like new version of human. And the people who are paralyzed or frozen, or even there's also people like trying to like attack the people playing on the bridge, like trying to discourage them from playing on the bridge. The role of the people on the bridge, the people who are playing, the people who have accessed that state where they can move forward and like play with the bridge, their role and responsibility is not to drag the frozen people out. It's their responsibility is to just keep focusing on your path, and just allow those people who are frozen to just witness. It's like, be an example for those people, because what's going to unfreeze those people is not you saving them, but it's going to, or like not you pushing them out of their inherent state, but it's about you just being an example, doing your own thing, and that naturally inspires the people who are frozen or stuck to move forward towards the bridge as well. Yeah, this actually came, I was doing a reading on someone last week, I think, and this came through quite strongly. Another image kind of depicting the same kind of vibes. came through really strongly, where instead of like the people being, okay, so the other image was, well, it feels weird to open my eyes. The other image from last week's reading was, it was people on a boat, and the boat, okay, so there's people on the boat, and there's some people who, okay, well, how do I say this? I'm like kind of super out of it. So in the scene that we just received in today's reading, it was, there is a bridge that forms, and there's a group of people who are able to explore the bridge and play on the bridge, etc. And then there's another group of people who are like paralyzed in fear. So that same kind of dynamic, group dynamic, came through in a reading that I did last week, where people were on a boat together, and then the boat, everyone had life jackets, by the way, so so there was, I'm trying to remember the scene properly. There was a boat, and everyone was on the boat, and then the boat's like kind of sank, and the people, there was a group of people that knew how to swim, and they weren't scared, they weren't paralyzed in fear, so they knew how to swim, and they also had sight of the shore. So they just, when the boat sank, they kind of just swam to the shore. But then there's this other group of people that, by the way, everyone, like I said, was wearing white life jackets, so no one's actually in danger. But the people who didn't know how to swim or couldn't see sight of the shore because they were just in the state of like paralyzed fear, they feel like they're kind of, I don't know, they're just like stuck and like paralyzed in the water. And the water itself is actually quite shallow as well, but they just don't have the perception, or they're just so, it's like a freeze response, like they can't get out of it. So there are people who are like on the shore now and are like playing on the shore in the same way that the same group of people are like playing on the rainbow, and this like new world type of, new land type of concept. There's people on the new land playing in the new land or experimenting with the new land, but there's a group of people who are still in the older space. So in the boat scene, it's like they're still in the water. And in the rainbow scene, they're still just like on the edge, like far away from the rainbow bridge. And the role of the people who have been able to touch the new land, the new world, etc., it's not our jobs to pull or save people. It's our job to just be ourselves and to allow those people who are frozen to give them the, let them have their own process, essentially. Like, let them learn how to get themselves out, right? Because this is what I was also speaking about earlier in this live stream. It's not about, it's like we're exiting the victimhood game. So like seeing the people who are in the water, who are struggling, or seeing the people frozen in fear, like staring at this rainbow bridge. We don't want to perpetuate their victimhood, and therefore perpetuate these like negative energies that are holding them frozen, like the fear and everything. What instead we want to do is just do our own thing. We don't even have to directly interact with these people who are from the other group of people who don't know how to play on the new land or play on the rainbow bridge yet, or just don't know how to access that space. We're not here to save them. We're here to just be ourselves and play as we know how, in our own path, like in our own center. And that those other people will, as they witness us, they will automatically unfreeze and they will automatically find their own way. But they have to go through their own process so they can learn how to get themselves to, it's like they have to empower themselves. We're not saving anyone anymore, because everyone has to learn on their own, because that's how they sustain themselves in this new land or new world. If you just pick them up and drop them there, they won't be able to sustain it, and they'll fall into old patterns and old habits. So they have to go through this process of purging, and this process of, they just have to go through their own process of learning, essentially. And we can teach them if they come to us directly. If anyone comes to us directly inviting us to teach them anything, then we can, but we don't even have to. It's just like the teaching at this point is almost like indirect. It's just leading by example, doing our own thing, doing what makes most sense to us, doing what's in front of us to do. And the people who are witnessing will automatically find their own path forward. Okay. Is there anything else? I'm seeing just like an image of a hot air balloon. So if you see people having, it's like being on a hot air balloon and kind of just floating above all these events and stuff that are happening. It's like you can see if there's a lot going on or a lot of events happening in your world, but it's not directly involving you, but it's happening around you. Kind of taking the observer space of like you're just kind of floating above it on a hot air balloon. You're not getting involved in it. You're witnessing it, learning from it, observing it, but you're literally above it. And that's the thing. It's like don't land the hot air balloon and get involved trying to solve anything or be the hero or anything. It's just let people go through their processes as they need to, and you focus on your own path. Focus on what you personally need to deal with in your own personal life, and don't try to save anyone. Yeah, that's a really big message coming through. It's like, don't try to save anyone, just focus on yourself, especially for this upcoming month. Yeah. And if I try to get a timeline for like when we can get information about what's past the Rainbow Bridge, I'm kind of getting like beginning of March, end of Feb. So maybe we'll talk, maybe it'll come up again in our next, if I do another reading next month. That'd be cool. It'd be especially cool if I forget and then I tap into the records and they just bring up the Rainbow Bridge imagery again and I'm like, oh, thanks for thanks for keeping us updated. That'd be fun. Yeah. So I'm just going to use the closing prayer. I would like to thank the masters, teachers, and loved ones for their love and compassion. I would like to thank the lords of the Akashic records for their point of view. And I would like to thank Source for all knowledge and healing. The records are now closed. Amen. The records are now closed. Amen. The records are now closed. Amen. And so it is. That was fun. Is anyone here with me still? Oh, someone said nice. Dua said nice. Okay. So that is all for today's energy update for February. Thank you so much for all of you who are here live and for anyone who's watching the replay. If you want to leave a comment saying you're here to watch the replay or something, that'd be really cool. I am planning on doing these more regularly, hopefully every week, just because they're fun and it's fun to go live. But we'll see. Yeah. And that is it. Thank you for being here. Thank you for watching. Oh, I just have the script that runs at the end. If you want to work with me one-on-one, I have got spaces open in my one-on-one program, which is conveniently called A Whole New World. So link in the description for that. So like I mentioned earlier, Alchemy of Liberation, the Mystery School and Community Space. And there's also a pre-recorded course that you can access. That's also in the description. I am also doing one-on-one Akashic Records reading. So if you were curious or intrigued or enjoyed this collective reading, then you may be even more amused by the personal reading on yourself. So there's a link in bio to schedule that in as well. Yeah, I have to pee again. So I'm going to head out. Have a lovely week. Have a lovely month. And